Okay, hello. Would you like to introduce
Hi.
yourself?
Um, I was a previous volunteer from Greyhaven. I've done volunteer work for them and supported them for the last years or previous. Um, but what I'm going to be talking about is Jenny and her small birdhouse.
Okay. What did you experience at Jenny's house?
Um, so when I was at Jenny's small bird place, this was about ago. I was there to adopt another bird to be a friend to my bird. And there were birds in every room of the house, and it was crowded. Like, when I say every room, it was every single room. And in cages that weren't suitable for their size. So, like, African greys in travel cages for their size, and um, like budgies who were in five other cages, like together in five budgies together in one cage, but the cage was like your PetSmart cage, like the tiny ones, like not suitable for like how many there were in there and just the living conditions, even though they had just cleaned the perches they were using were not like rope perches that were torn or dowling perches, um, and some of them I could see were starting to have bumblefoot. Um,
I've seen posts of this on social media. Like,
yeah,
on their social media, they post that.
yeah, um, yeah. This is just specific to the small, like Jenny's place, the small bird shelter.
Mhm.
This isn't a case for the big bird house. It's so much different over there. Like all the birds are like on the right diet, like they have chop and then they get some seed and they're on pellets. They have enrichment, be it people or like toys or other sort of stimulation, and like there's charts on the walls to make sure, like, oh, did this bird get out? Oh, if these birds haven't gone out this week, make sure you get these guys out for at least this amount of time. And like it's like a well-oiled machine at the big bird shelter, but at Jenny's place, it's like the conditions aren't great for those birds. Like, too many birds in too small a space. Like, I'm talking like budgies, but they're in the same room with like African greys and like eclectus, and like then there's like lovebirds in the same room and conures. Like, I get that maybe like Jenny wanted to help every bird, but there is a point where it's too many birds to be
Mhm.
having in that many space. But I mean,
But
when I say birds in every room, I'm talking like the den, the bathrooms, like so many birds in the bathrooms. Like every single room had so many birds. Like, and when you went through the entryway, the first bird I saw was a dog crate that apparently was boarding there, but like right as you walked into the door on your left side, like dog crate for I don't know.
yeah, I had witnessed the bird mixing as well when I was adopting Sweet Pea and Honeysuckle. They were
Yeah.
in a room with other birds, not just lovebirds, and they were able-bodied bird. And as you know, Sweet Pea, she is disabled and had suffered from a stroke. So they
Yes.
were also mixing different abilities of birds and needs, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Like in that room with the African gray, the set of conures, all those budgies and their cages were stacked on top of each other. They had a disabled lovebird, like had a like really bad splay leg, and like Jenny was like smothering this bird, like would grab it and like kiss it, and this bird was just trying to get away, trying to get Jenny to leave it alone. But it seemed like such a nice little lovebird because it wasn't like biting that hard and it was trying to be nice, but obviously its boundaries were not being listened to, and obviously I'm sure it was so overstimulating for that bird to just be grabbed and smothered, and it was so aggressive too. Like,
Y-
it was just you grab it and then she was also encouraging me to grab birds and how they were like, how it's just, they're naughty. They just bite because they're naughty. And definitely not because their boundaries had been, broken. Like, they do deserve some sort of decency. Like, they are emotionally intelligent birds. When they ask you to stop, you need to stop.
Yeah, I had experienced that with Honeysuckle as well. When she was introducing him to me, she had just grabbed him. As you may know, Honeysuckle
Mhm.
had clipped wings, and he was there for a while, so.
That was the same because I went there to adopt a bird, as I said, and the bird I adopted wasn't there at the time, but the small birds there had clipped wings because Jenny said that if they got out, that it could be super dangerous. The thing is, the only reason it would be dangerous in the sense is that they had gigantic birds with really teeny birds, like
But
that
they were
shouldn't be
separate,
mixing.
and they were caged, so.
Yeah, yeah. And they didn't look like they were really getting out, so I was like, okay, all right. But yeah, just like when I got my bird, they had told me like, oh, the previous people that had it clipped its wings, and like Jenny came for a home visit to, do a home check and see if it was okay. I guess, and like just very, she was very like aggressive and defensive, and like she kept encouraging me to grab the that I ended up adopting, but like you could tell had been grabbed and manhandled so much. It took me over like 6 months to get it to like fully trust hands again. It was so traumatized. So traumatized. It would freak out if your hands came anywhere near it. Like you could definitely tell it was so badly manhandled. And it had like lasting trauma from that.
So, what happened to you adopted ultimately?
So ultimately, about exactly a year after I adopted that, it passed away super unexpectedly, and it was because of an undiagnosed heart condition. Um, there were no other signs, no other reasons, just that it was an undiagnosed heart condition, and that was that. And then when I told Jenny this, I didn't really get much like support, I guess. Like it's like, oh, that just happens. It's like, all right, that's great to hear that I had that passed away from an undiagnosed heart condition that should have been diagnosed when it was taken in. So
So that would actually match up with, in a way, the exchange that I had with her in the email correspondence, which people can find.
yes, but this was all in person talking. This wasn't. I I don't have any like documented email or text. This is all verbal. So
What was your experience with Jenny, like, as a person?
with Jenny as a person, so Jenny, when I met her, she was always on the defense. If you said something that was slightly wrong, immediately like a snap, like just defensive, like that you were saying something horrible and terrible about her, and then would get really aggressive and really gaslighty. Um, Even though I feel like what I was asking was not, I wasn't asking anything crazy like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe you keep birds in these conditions or anything that would be like that. But if I was like, oh wow, like I see you have, you know, birds are here, birds are there. She'd be like, yeah, well, I run this place myself, and like I get no other support, no other funding, just very, very defensive immediately from the get-go. And I was like, okay.
And for anyone who has questions about their funding, they have information on charitydata.ca, and it will show that they do have excess revenue in the six-figure range. So you can come to your own conclusions with what Jenny has said. So we've discussed the different practices at the large bird house and the small bird house.
Mhm.
How are the other directors like compared to Jenny that you've had experience with?
In comparison to Jenny, it's like night and day. The other directors are always very polite. Like they're not as like on the defensive, always so aggressive like Jenny. Like they're actually very kind. They actually do listen. At least these are the directors that I have met at the Big Bird shelter. And they were always like, if I had a concern or if I had a worry, they would listen to me, and then they would go over with me like, oh, this is what happened, or oh, we will get them to the vet like right away, and then they would actually take them.
Mhm.
So I felt I was being heard over there. And my experiences there were actually quite good with the directors.
And I know that since the medical... Oh, I'm sorry. Let me...
It's okay.
Okay, that was interesting. Did you hear that?
Yes, I did hear all that.
What are your thoughts?
Okay, so Dr. McDonald does have many years on all of us. Not saying that in a bad way, but just that she has more life experience than us.
I
And
agree.
I do trust her. I mean, I'm a full believer in Dr. McDonald, so I did write down, but just I do get what she's saying.
Mhm.
Like
Well, that's one of the reasons why it's important to us to emphasize like the different
yeah,
practices within the organization. And it's not like all of Greyhaven that is doing one thing.
yeah. It's like specific people within the organization. It's not because it's not like we're saying, oh, it's everybody, like volunteers, like every single person. No, it's just like these specific people that are like they just are refusing to change or I guess update maybe their practices is a better term for it. And just see, hey, like there are definitely things that, you know, we can improve upon and blah, blah, blah with our shelter. And we can definitely be more compassionate. And because the problem is you shouldn't, with a shelter, you shouldn't take on more than you can handle. Like you should take
Yes.
on, like, right? So, but with Jenny's place, when I went there about a year-ish ago, if not maybe a little longer, it was like so many birds. And Jenny was complaining how she, like, it was all her running it. It was all her funds. It was all her money that was going into this. Like, she got no help from anybody. Like, these were words that she said to me just as, like, all the volunteers had finished cleaning. It just doesn't put the greatest taste in your mouth when you come in and someone's like, you know, I do all of this. It's basically all mine. The only reason this exists because of me and stuff like this. Doesn't leave me feeling very great about a rescue. And especially seeing the condition some of the birds in. I went to the bathroom and they had left. I was like, there's a conure in here in like the teeniest, tiniest cage. And they're like, yeah, it's fine. I was like, In the bathroom while I'm using the bathroom, like that's just not okay. If you don't have enough space to have these birds, like don't take on these birds. Like provide other places to take them to.
I
Which
want to remind people who are new to birds that birds need sunlight, direct sunlight. A lot of bathrooms don't have windows.
Yeah, this was the main floor bathroom right at the back with no windows. This was like a cave.
Here's a question. Was there an avian lamp directly above him? Oh.
No.
Yeah, the bird didn't have a light in the washroom and an avian light. It had bathroom light.
It had a bathroom
And then
light.
Dr. McDonald called.
And Dr. McDonald called. Yeah.
Did you like her idea?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
liked her idea. I think it needs some tweaking, but
yeah.
I liked her idea.
Yeah. Oh, so I should tell people what the idea is because I'm going to edit out the calls because it's Dr. McDonald. She deserves her privacy. Dr. McDonald suggested to have a list of people who are willing to take in geriatric or special needs birds. That way, when birds come in that need a home that is willing to give that care, they are able to be matched up with a family very quickly. Of course, my thing was that I like that, but logistics of it, people need like content to get attached to it and think, oh, I do want to like sign up for this list, or I'm reaching out because I want this bird. Yeah, that's the summary.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, but a lot of people don't have, at least in my experience with birds, a lot of people don't have experience with giving medications to birds, whereas I have. I'm all over this idea because I'm like, yes, I'd love to take care of like senior palliative animals. Like I'm totally for that because that's all the animals I've ever had is senior and like every sort of health condition under the sun. Like that is so my jam to be able to give them so much love. But anyways,
I think another thing. I'm sorry. I think another thing with this is that a lot of people wouldn't actually have the funds, even if they have the experience taking care of these birds. So there would actually need to be a donation thing set up for people to, be able to get medical care, at least for the birds who are kept locally, because then, we know them and they're going to the hospitals we know.
Yeah.
And not like, put a huge dent. Meanwhile, they get home care. I think that would also be a thing because not everyone who has medical experience has money.
Yeah. And when we're talking about exotics, we're talking bills that are sometimes in like the $2,000 range, $3,000.
Yeah.
I paid a $4,000 bill one time for and that's never fun looking at your bank account being like, oh my gosh, my wallet is empty and I need to figure out how to get money from somewhere to be able to, make sure my bird is getting the best care.
Each hospitalization that Sweet Pea had, for anyone curious, was about $1,000 to $2,000. So think about that. I didn't. Thankfully, I have followers who were like, we got you.
I mean, I've had who is quite very similar to Sweet Pea. He's been in and out of the Night Owl Bird Hospital for years, and his vet bills have been like the lowest one I've had for him was $400. The highest one was the one I was talking about, which was $4,000.
Hobbies? What hobbies? We can't afford them. Anyways, yeah, so Dr. McDonald is great. She's really trying to come up with a solution. And I'm glad she called during this because we can talk about it. Yeah. Is there anything else you would like to discuss about Greyhaven?
No, not really. At least that I can think of. Just that Dr. McDonald has gone above and beyond for my bird, and she's a pretty incredible woman.
Okay, Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
We're also going to talk about the foster situation at Greyhaven. There has been a review covering this on their Google reviews, but I think we should get more insight from this person who has volunteered with them before. So, what was your experience with fostering?
So when I had been volunteering for about 2 years when I asked Greyhaven if they fostered birds out, and they said no unless they are like palliative and going to pass away. Um, and they said they don't typically foster ever. Like nobody fosters birds; they usually just stay at the shelter. And then I see a bird who has been there since 2021. Bird named Sunny has been fostered out to someone who is a Greyhaven volunteer. So it's very conflicting information because I was told one thing, but they're not transparent when it actually comes to how fosters work.
So, have you witnessed all elderly birds get to go to foster homes to enjoy the end of their days?
No, all of the senior birds, senior and palliative, even uh, usually spend their days at Greyhaven at their shelter. They don't. They don't usually get fostered out.
I don't know what to say to that.
I know.
I don't. It's just I don't know what to say to that.
It's super conflicting
yeah.
because they tell people one thing. Like there are people out there who want to help but don't have the funds to help, so they want to give these birds a good home and be able to give them the vet care and the love that they desire. But then they're being told by Greyhaven that, hey, we don't foster. And then you see online from a very large bird account that actually they do foster, but you have to be a very specific person in their circle in order to foster. Like I feel like I shouldn't say I feel like, but if you're going to be fostering, you should be transparent about the information saying we do foster, but only foster internally, not we don't foster birds to the public.